Hello. This is the DFS build, NBA DFS today. I'm Taylor Smith with Kevin Roberts. How are we doing, Kevin?
Doing all right. Ready for a 10-game slate.
Lovely living room there with a nice huge chimney you have.
It's fake.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
This is we aim for 30 minutes build show using DraftKings for the day. It's Wednesday, December 20th. If we help you in any way, do us a favor, hit the like button on this video and be sure to subscribe to the channel. This is typically geared for a single entry tournament build, but you can, use it for any tournament you want. If you're looking for a cash build, you're not in the right place. 10 games, like Kevin said, on the board tonight. Injury news, briefly. We have several key players listed questionable, including Donovan Mitchell and Paul George. Both missed shoot-around with illnesses. We'll see what happens there. Kristaps Porzingis, second half of back-to-back for the Celtics. He missed last night's game. It's worth noting Jason Tatum is also potentially banged up after last night, hurt his ankle. Didn't look right after coming back. They are playing at Sacramento tonight, so keep an eye out for that. AD and LeBron have their daily fake questionable tags. Miles Turner and Jalen Smith are iffy for Indiana. Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable for the Hawks. Robert Covington and Marcus Morris are questionable for Philly, which is actually meaningful because Nick Batum's already out. Jericho Sims questionable for the Knicks. Jayshawn Tate, Amen Thompson for the Rockets are questionable. And we just got Norman Powell also questionable for the Clippers. So could have some potential value on LA.
God, I hope so. Because this slate does not have much. Yeah.
We do not have much, but we will go ahead and kick things off with the first game of the night, which is Utah on the road in Cleveland against the Cavs. 5-point spread in favor of the home team in this one, 226.5 total. Utah, I didn't name anyone in the injury report. I suppose I should have been prepared. I guess they don't have anyone really on the injury report. George, Clarkson, right? And Yurtseven. So we're going to see Colin Sexton.
Yeah, still significant. Sexton with a revenge game. Not that we care about that. But, I mean, Colin Sexton, for his role right now, still a really good price. Projects decently. And, won't garner that much ownership. Markkanen is back. So, I don't think he's a smash play. I don't think you have to play him. But pretty much all these Utah starters are just okay. But it's an okay spot. I think Sexton's the guy I would look at based on price and potential here.
It's really not a good spot. Cleveland is still pretty good defensively. Utah on the road, not a good team. Sexton's priced up now. Kessler's minutes kind of all over the place. THT, Markkanen, Olynyk. They're all. I mean, Markkanen's not overpriced. I'm just not dying to play him at Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm talking more like it should be a close game, especially with Mitchell now possibly not playing. I mean, I'm not so worried about the total if we're getting a full game out of these guys, which is kind of the concern when it comes to a team like the Jazz.
We have seen Sexton's minutes improve game over game consistently. Tons of usage since they're shorthanded. I suppose that's the guy you'd get to, but 7-2 is quite steep. Yeah. I would say.
Yep. I agree. He's the guy. If you go here, I don't think we need to do that, though.
Cleveland, obviously a lot more interesting. Garland and Mobley are still out for them. And Mitchell's questionable, missed shoot around with illness. A lot of teams will tell players to just fuck off in the morning and stay home and try to get well and then come back later if you feel better. So we'll see what happens there. Mitchell does project quite well if he plays. Utah is a great matchup. Another revenge game, by the way. Other side of that Colin Sexton trade. If we care about that, which I generally do not. 10K flat, great spot. Looks really good if he's good to go. If he's not, who are you looking at?
Well, obviously, Max Strus, Karis LeVert, those are the two guys that stand out. They may end up being priority plays. I think if you're playing cash games, obviously, if Mitchell's out, you're looking at those two guys right away, probably Jared Allen too. All three of those guys are look very good, and I would probably be looking at least two of them in my lineups if Spida sits.
I think Craig Porter might be one of the best values on the slate if that happens, because they don't have a point guard. Donovan Mitchell's kind of their point guard right now.
Yeah.
With Garland out, Porter's already playing a role off the bench. He's 4-4 DK, which is pricey, Craig, but should see 20 plus minutes. Especially if he starts, he could see 30 plus minutes. So not much we can do about it now since we don't know. But
right.
Yeah.
I mean, 4-4, so that's good. What are you thinking about these other ancillary guys like Okoro and such?
Okoro is never a guy I really want to play. He's awful per minute. Same with George Niang. I guess Sam Merrill is a guy that could see an uptick in minutes too. Like, they just have a very underwhelming bench in the backcourt, but LeVert is the best play on the slate if Mitchell's out at any position, I think. Spruce is fine. 66 is high, but the minutes should be good. Allen is good either way, just because the matchup's excellent. Not a good usage guy, of course, but good per minute. Foul trouble in the last game. Hopefully he can keep his hands to himself tonight. But keep an eye on this. It's obviously among the biggest items on the slate.
Yep.
Moving on, Charlotte on the road in Indiana, 10-point spread, which is hefty, in favor of the Pacers with a massive 248-point total. Charlotte is still without LaMelo Ball. Mark Williams is doubtful. Gordon Hayward, is he back tonight? He did not pop up on the injury report.
He is
for me.
Probable, so I'm assuming he's back.
So he should be back. Miles Bridges, too, banned from Canada, missed the last game, but he's back stateside. He's allowed to play for some reason. So great matchup. Indiana's been a team we're picking on all season long. Reasonable salary on Terry Rozier, I think, especially in tournaments. He looks excellent, especially if like Mitchell's out and we have more value. Really good spend-up option at guard.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Yeah, I can't argue with that. I don't think anybody else stands out as a priority. I think he's probably the one guy I would look at. That being said, Nick Richards, pretty good price, is going to start. Brandon Miller plays a lot. Gordon Hayward does a lot of things when he's out there. I think all these guys, considering the matchup, are playable, and the game is stackable. But the only guy that I really like is Rozier, probably.
Yeah, everyone else is kind of priced up. Brandon Miller looks overpriced. PJ Washington came up after the other night. Hayward pushing 7K. Bridges in the mid-8s. Nick Richards now over 6K. It's a good spot. It's just hard to justify a lot of those salaries.
I will point out, as we touched on last time we had a video here, is that the Indiana Pacers do not stop anybody inside the paint. So, I mean, Nick Richards probably is going to end up topping this projection. The only thing with Richards is that PJ Washington is here, and I think a couple of games ago when we talked about him, Washington was out. So, and Washington got 39 minutes last game, so he's going to play. And they're kind of like the same price, so I think they kind of eat into each other a little bit in this matchup, but I still like pretty much everything here. Rozier's probably the highlight.
Yeah, and Hayward and Bridges were out in the last game. That explains his huge minutes.
True.
In part, Indiana, Miles Turner, Jalen Smith, both questionable. That's obviously huge news. We saw Isaiah Jackson start the other night with both of them out. But if Jalen Smith is back and if Miles Turner's out, maybe Jalen Smith eats into Isaiah Jackson a little. Isaiah Jackson's now 5'7", which is fairly steep. Good per minute. Historically, played 24 minutes the other night. Halliburton, fine, great spot. He's been pretty underwhelming of late relative to how he was early in the season. Guys like Mathurin, Heatles, they run a deep rotation. Honestly, this is a great spot. They have a super high total, but nothing really stands out if everyone's in.
No. The only guy that really pops right now, two guys, would be Isaiah Jackson, but that might not matter, and he's not exactly cheap anymore. And then Bruce Brown, but chalky Bruce Brown feels wrong. He's projected at 31% ownership because we don't have any real value yet. So I expect that to change, obviously. And then after you get past Tyrese, there's just nobody popping despite this awesome matchup. So I don't know. I don't know if you can really prioritize anybody unless Jalen Smith and Miles Turner are both out. Then I really like Isaiah, even though the price is a little bit high.
I think Turner's fine at 7-2.
Is he for sure
centers, no, if he plays, I think he's
okay.
fine. Opposing centers just smash the Hornets. Nick Richards is their center right now. Great spot for him if he's good to go. Next up, we have Minnesota at Philly. The Sixers are favored by about a field goal here. Minnesota 20-5 on the season, by the way. They look quite legit so far. Both teams toward the top of the league in defensive rating. This game has a 226 total, which is among the lowest on the slate. What do you like?
As far as prioritizing, nothing. Not really. I don't really like using bigs against Embiid in general, whether it be foul trouble or just him, stopping from exceeding. I guess Anthony Edwards is probably the guy I would look to here. Cat projects about the same and is a little bit cheaper, so he's okay. But yeah, I'm not really going after this game in general, I don't think.
Yeah, Towns is priced up for when Edwards missed a couple games. Yep. Edwards isn't overpriced, but no, I'm not dying to pick on Philly either.
No, but I think if they find success here, it's probably going to be with Edwards. Is he like fully past the whole hip thing, or is he going to be like not limited whatsoever?
I don't think he'll be limited. He was great the other night, 39 minutes. So
okay, yeah,
no limit there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Edwards would probably be the only guy that I would feel really good about here. But I personally probably won't do it, but he's fine.
Philly, like I said, potentially thin at power forward with Covington and Morris questionable. Batum out. If they're all out, I think Kelly Oubre for 59 becomes a really interesting play in tournaments. Minutes should be more secure in that scenario. He's been kind of limited since he came back from his being hit by a car, but not a bad price on him. Gets decent usage when he's in. Otherwise, it's really just Embiid for this team. Feasting every night, huge minutes. Minnesota plays big. Not that Philly cares about that. The only issue is he's 11-6, and we have no one cheap to play to get up to him. But if he's, rosterable, I'm highly interested.
I probably won't be, just because we have other studs that look a little bit more appealing to me. And in theory, Rudy is a good defender. I don't know if it really matters for Embiid. But yeah, Embiid's probably the only play here outside of Oubre, who I agree does look pretty good if those guys are out.
Okay, next up, a little catch-me-up game. Heat at Magic, 5-point spread in favor of Orlando, 220 total, which is the lowest number on the slate. We do have news, though. Jimmy Butler is out for the Heat, but the sites were aware of that and price never went up prematurely. Bam is 9.5, Heroes almost 9K. Jaime Jaquez over 7K, Caleb Martin over 7K, Josh Richardson over 5K. It's a gross matchup. It's a gross game. We're paying a premium for all these guys. I think Miami, maybe other than a dusting of Bam in a tournament, is a full fade.
It's a full fade for me all around for the Heat. The only guy that I even look to, and I don't even want to do that, is Lowry. The prices are ridiculous. They really should have priced them all the way down to get people to get trapped into a road game against the slow Magic. I mean, the Magic, they play really good defense, and you don't have your main dude. So, no, I don't want anything to do with Miami.
Orlando, Wendell Carter back tonight. He's going to be limited. He's been out for quite a while. He's only 5'4", which is super cheap, but 25 minutes of him is not enough to make him really pop as a value, especially a center-only value. Again, Banchero, 8K, Wagner, 7.7. I don't really see much here either. Miami is still a slow team, even if Jimmy's out. Not a whole lot of interest for me.
No, Fultz is obviously still out, so you can look at Cole Anthony or Jalen Suggs as like GPP plays, but Suggs is a little bit pricey for how erratic he can be, and Cole Anthony's minutes are all over the place. I agree, it's Banchero or Franz Wagner. They're just okay. I don't love them, and I think this game is a full fade for me.
Moving on, we have the New York Derby between the Knicks and Nets in Brooklyn. New York is a 1-point favorite on the road, 233 total, which is quite healthy. The Knicks defense has been atrocious since Mitchell Robinson went out. still out tonight. Jericho Sims also questionable. That's noteworthy. Sims has been starting, even though Isaiah Hartenstein is outplaying him off the bench routinely. If Sims is out, perhaps we see a token Taj Gibson start here.
Oh.
Or maybe they'll just do the right thing and start Hartenstein because we all know he's getting the minutes anyway. I see quite a bit to like here, starting with Jalen Brunson in the mid-range, Julius Randle in the mid-range. Both look great. Brooklyn, not a very good defensive team. I think they're 21st in rating. These guys are always seemingly underpriced on DK. Hartenstein still looks great, south of 6K. We have Quickly and Barrett looking at like decent point per dollar guys. I think this is a really good game to stack if you can make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anything new to add. I like this game as a full stack, and pretty much every Knicks guy is viable. I like Hartenstein regardless of what happens with Sims, especially with our no value wasteland at the moment. Obviously, that could change, but Hartenstein looks pretty good, and Brunson and Randall could end up being priority plays. I will just say that already Julius is projecting for 24% ownership. Warranted, but if he's going to be like really chalky, I might just pivot to like Kawhi Leonard possibly, or just pivot to Brunson in the same game at $100 cheaper. And they project similarly too.
I typically prefer Brunson, but I don't think you can go wrong either way, honestly. Nah. On the Brooklyn side, like I said, the Knicks defense has been awful lately, particularly in the paint. Great spot for Nick Claxton at 6'2". I don't really get to him much, it seems, but pretty good price point on him. He's popping as a 30% owned play right now at center, which is noteworthy. Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie, big minutes every night, good usage for both. Cam Johnson looks like a decent value in the mid-range. Cam Thomas looks overpriced to me as a scoring-reliant ball hog. Anyone else for Brooklyn for you?
No, you touched on basically everybody who is viable here. Claxton is probably going to be my favorite play from the Nets. He projects the best when you look at points per dollar for this team. And everybody's in play, though. I still like Dinwiddie. Bridges is fine. Even Cam Thomas for GPPs. I mean, the second you don't want Cam Thomas, he's going to score 50 real points. So if you're doing one lineup, which is kind of what we're gearing towards here, Cam Thomas probably isn't going to fit. But this whole game looks pretty appealing.
Next up, Denver on the road in Toronto. The champs are favored by 4.5, 229 total for the Nuggets, who are completely healthy. KCP is back. Jamal Murray still possibly limited with ankle injuries. Jokic is Jokic. He's cheaper than Embiid by $100. What do you think about this game?
Jamal Murray's price is awesome. His projected minutes and overall projection are not. I think he's still an okay dart throw in GPP, but Jokic is the only guy I really like here for Denver.
I do think Murray is playable. He's good per minute. 30-ish minutes should be enough for him to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Only issue is I'm not sure he's winning you a tournament with his ceiling at the moment in 30-ish minutes.
Right.
Aaron Gordon, fine. Never love Aaron Gordon or MPJ. Deep rotation for this team. Jokic looks good, but I don't know. It is worth noting Toronto is like one of the worst defensive teams in the league so far this month. I think they're 26th. Just not a very good basketball team up there. So it's not like it's a bad spot. It's just hard to really love anything based on the salaries.
Yep.
Speaking of the Raptors, ain't shit here. Dennis Schroeder's okay. Siakam, maybe. Scotty Barnes is great, but expensive. Pirtle is somewhat interesting because the minute should be there against Jokic, but of course there's foul trouble risk against a guy like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Pirtle is a decent dart throw at 5'8" in tournaments now that I look at it, but, you know, it's certainly hard to love anything here either.
Yeah, the only guy that really pops would be Scotty Barnes just because he does everything and he can smash in any spot. He's about the same price as he's been, but it is getting up there. And Schroeder is just okay. And same with Pirtle. I don't have a problem with those guys, but probably not priorities for me just because it's not an amazing spot.
Let's see. We got Atlanta at Houston. The Rockets are favored by 3 at home. High total in this game simply because it involves the Hawks, who play at a fast pace, play no defense, and can score. Clint Capella, revenge game. Minutes have been up lately. 7,100, though, is pretty steep. Trae Young is a very high floor, high upside play. Not a good matchup, though. Houston is the antithesis of Atlanta in terms of pace and defense. Any interest in the Hawks?
It feels like these guys all had their prices go up a little bit too much. I mean, Trae is always playable in GPPs. Clint's minutes have been pretty awesome, but I just don't like the price and I don't like the spot. I think I'm going to be off of the Hawks and maybe off of this game, but the Houston side, we'll touch on in a second, does look kind of good.
Capella is interesting. Like, they have been playing him and Okongwu together a little, which is something they never used to do until like 3 days ago. But 71 is getting up there. I think Claxton for 900 less is just simply a better play, but he should also be significantly more popular.
I think that's okay, though.
Yeah, certainly as a pivot. Houston, Fred VanVleet gets Trae Young, presumably on defense. That's alluring. VanVleet's leading the league in minutes per game yet again this season. Şengün's price has come down a little. Not too scared of the matchup against Capella. Jabari Smith's offense comes close, but they'll rebound well. Tari Eason priced at a premium now. Jalen Green not getting the minutes. Anyone stand out on this side?
FVV looks awesome. Şengün looks great. Jabari's just okay. Jalen Green is your classic GPP play just because the matchup is great and he's not that expensive, but I'm not in love with him. But yeah, I'm looking at VanVleet and looking at Şengün here.
Yeah, I mean, center is shaping up to be pretty stacked on this slate. I don't think Şengün will be very popular. He is playing a little bit better of late. He kind of had a slump there for 2 or 3 games, but back on that wagon. It's a good spot. It's just hard to love anyone here, I think.
Well, if I had to pick one play, it's going to be Fred. Because he's going against Trae. And like Clint isn't like a bad defender by any means, obviously. It's just the pacing that kind of gets things away from him a little bit. Şengün can get there regardless of any matchup, but Fred he's got the best matchup of this game for sure. One of the best matchups of the entire slate.
Yeah, and currently projected for about 9.5% ownership. Quite alluring, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers in Chicago taking on the Bulls, 4-point spread in favor of the Lakers. AD and LeBron will play through these questionable tags, I have to think, at this point. They've come up a little on DK, both now over 10K, where they've been under pretty much all season. Who stands out on the Lakers side?
As long as these questionable tags aren't fake, the Brow stands out as the best play for the Lakers. Look at that price for Austin Reeves. Ugh. That's come up quite
D'Lo.
a bit. Obvious. Yeah, well, D'Lo's a little bit more palatable if, they're thrust into having a major role or something. Both those guys are still in play if Davis and James are out. I don't think they will be. I would definitely go with Brow over LeBron here, though.
Yeah, the projections currently bear that out, but both do look good.
Sure.
It's just hard to prioritize the 5-figure guys with no value, but we'll see what happens with news later in the day. Chicago, again, playing well lately. Zach LaVine's still out. They're playing much better without him, interestingly enough. Kobe White just slaying on a nightly basis. 8K is high for Kobe White, but maybe it's not. Anyone for Chicago look good to you?
I think those main 3 guys, as long as LaVine, with LaVine still out and obviously on the trade block and everything, DeRozan, Kobe, Vooch, all these guys are plenty viable, especially if you are going to be using a Laker on the other side. It never hurts to run it back. It's not a bad idea anyways. I guess Vooch is the cheapest, so he stands out to me, and you just never know when that Kobe Crater game is coming. It could be here. But yeah, Kobe White, his role is something else. He can just go do whatever the hell he wants. So he still might not be expensive enough for what he's allowed to do for the Bulls right now. But this game looks stackable, and there's like 5 guys who stand out in it already.
Yeah, the guy I'm least into is DeRozan, even though he does project the best. I don't know what it is about him. It's just hard for me to click his name, which is obvious bias and stupid. But
well, he doesn't make threes, and he's scoring dependent often enough. So, and he's of the 3, he's projected for the most ownership. So all those things are pretty easy indicators that you'd rather play the other 2 guys, I think.
the most popular bull at the moment is Andre Drummond, actually, for 4,300. No value.
That's just because there's no value. I have 0 interest in Andre Drummond.
I have some interest just because in 13 minutes he can get you 30 off the bench. So I don't think it's a bad large field play.
I'm just assuming that we're going to get better value in the next several hours here, and that Drummond will be an afterthought.
Let's fucking hope so.
I hope.
Next up, the other LA team, Clippers in Dallas, take on the Mavs. 2-point favorites are the Clippers, 237 total. One of the highest on the slate. We mentioned George and Norm Powell are both iffy for LA. We saw George miss a game over the weekend, maybe a week or 2 ago. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard both thrived in that game. They should thrive if George is out tonight. Prices have come up, but they would still be very much in play if Paul George is out, I think.
Yeah, Paul George is out. They're probably too cheap. And I don't really care about ownership. I'm playing probably one of them, if that's the case. I'm kind of assuming at this point that George is going to miss. I will note if Powell's out, Terrence Mann, as far as the value looks right now, Terrence Mann is okay. Looks pretty appealing. If Powell's in, he could be an okay value. Zubac, I think, is okay. Russ, his prices come down, but his minutes are pretty shaky. But I would prioritize one of the top Clipper spends if George is out, and also look at one of their values, probably starting with Mann.
Paul George, the last game he missed, Amir Coffey started. I think he played 26 or 27 minutes. He's 3.9. I would have interest in that, especially if George and Powell are out.
Sure.
There should be plenty of minutes to go around. Not a good per minute guy. He is Amir Coffey. But
he is Amir Coffey. He is Amir Coffey.
Flipping to the Mavs, still no Kyrie for them. Otherwise, they're pretty healthy. Derek Lively also missing from the lineup. I think Dwight Powell started the last game. We have him at 24 minutes, but he's 4-4 center only. Not a good per minute guy, which is rare for a center. Derek Jones popping a little in projections, which is frankly disgusting. 36% ownership, 5K flat. What do you think?
Well, I think exactly what you think, and I hope I don't have to use them, but it should be a really good game environment. Derek Jones Jr., Grant Williams, both those guys are getting minutes, so that you can safely project them for like 30 plus minutes and 20 to 25 fantasy points. Maybe we get lucky and they get more. So they're fine. Tim Hardaway Jr. is in play. Dwight Powell, as bad as the value looks okay. But if I can help it, Luka is the only guy I'm really looking at when it comes to the Mavs, and obviously he's an awesome play if there's enough value to comfortably get to him. Don't know if we're there yet, but I do really like Luka, as anybody should, especially if he's going to be low owned.
It's just interesting that he's now quite a bit more expensive than Embiid and Jokic. Like, both of those guys are in decent enough spots. I think I would prefer just the discount on them relative to Luka, especially with point guard. We have Rozier, we have Van Vliet, Trae Young if you want to spend up. We have Brunson, we have Kobe White. Like, there's a lot to like in the mid-range at point guard. I don't think Luka for 12-2, obviously you can play him every night. I just don't think this is the spot, or I'm inclined to overpay for him relative to Embiid or Jokic.
Well, I would actually argue that this is a great spot to do that, because the ownership will be completely off of him, with equal plays being cheaper. So all those guys you talked about are very good plays. But if Luka is going to come in with this massive role in a good game with nobody on him, that's when you play Luka. That's when he gets like 80 to 90 and he breaks the slate. So I'm not saying you have to force him in, but I'm definitely interested in Luka if we can get enough value to the point where my lineup is an utter ass outside of his 12.2K price.
It likely will be.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that.
Celtics lost in San Francisco last night to the Warriors in overtime. They're now in Sacramento on the second half of the back-to-back. Slight underdogs, which is a bit surprising to me. That indicates to me someone's going to sit. Porzingis is an obvious candidate. He's questionable. Jason Tatum, perhaps, like I said earlier, in light of an ankle injury. Good spot. High total game, 237.5, close spread. The Celtics generally run a pretty thin rotation. Anyone stand out for you on this side?
I think it all depends on who's in and who's out. If Porzingis is out again, obviously Al Horford could be okay unless he gets rested on a back-to-back. There's just like a lot of unknowns with Boston. And then if Tatum's out, like you said, the fact that Boston is the underdog here makes me think one or two key guys are going to be out, which obviously could make anybody pretty relevant here regardless of price. As things stand, nobody really stands out to me. But Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew, they all could end up being really, really good plays if Tatum and or Zinger end up sitting.
Worth noting, Al Horford not in projections at the moment. They are calling him doubtful on the back-to-back. So he's got to rest those old man bones.
Sam Hauser night.
5-3 for Sam Hauser.
His price went up.
Thank you.
His price went up since last time we talked about him.
Well,
how about Neemias Keita? Oh,
so last time.
You know I'm never playing again? Lamar friggin' Stevens. What?
Yeah, well, I could have told you that night. That was a bad idea.
Well,
He did start that game.
That was a reflex move at the last second because Neemias Keita was not the starter. And then the Lakers news all came out. So you're looking at Jackson Hayes, Neemias Keita off the bench, which could have easily been a DNP or Lamar Stevens. So, yeah, it was – I did a lot of different options there, but Stevens was one of the options I went with. It didn't go well.
I mean, he got 18 for 3-4, I think, so it's not like it totally tanked you, presumably. But
no.
You're not loving it.
No, you know who tanked me? Max Christie. That's who tanked me.
That was a fun time when he got 3.
Yeah.
Obviously, if Tatum's out, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday all look really good.
Yep.
Flipping to Sacramento, I don't think they have any injury news. They're fully healthy. Bad matchup against Boston, but this game does have a high total, and they are favored. Anything to note here?
Well, I mean, if some of their key guys are out, I don't know if it is a bad matchup, right? I mean, Horford's a good defensive presence. If Tatum or Porzingis are out, suddenly the way Boston's going to play defense is going to change. Plus, they're on the road, so the Kings can dictate pace here a bit. Sabonis and Fox both are solid plays. Keegan Murray's price has come up a little bit. Don't love his projection. And nobody else really stands out because, as you said, Sacramento's pretty healthy, and that's just going to be spread out, I think.
Yeah, I don't really have much interest in Sacramento overall. So chalk we're eating. There's really no value. The chalk as it stands is Derek Jones, George Niang, Bruce Brown, and Nick Claxton.
Chalk I'm eating, I'll start right away with Nick Claxton. I love him as things stand. If there's a lot of value that comes out, maybe that changes, but he projects well. He's fine price, great spot. I don't see why we wouldn't want to start with him.
Fair enough.
Niang, I'm not playing him at 34% ownership. Derek Jones Jr., he is projected to be the highest owned guy. I'm okay with him, but I don't want to play
just because
him.
The minutes are heavy.
Yeah, we know he's going to play. And he can do stuff. So I'd be okay with him, maybe Bruce Brown. But Claxton would be the chalky guy that I would feel really good about right now.
Andre Drummond. It's really gross. Like, Donovan Mitchell is a great play if he plays, but we don't know if he is. Projecting for quite a bit of ownership. If we go under the assumption that he's out, then obviously we're eating a lot of chalk with Cleveland, starting with LeVert, who is an auto play, in my opinion, in that scenario. Probably Craig Porter Jr. as well.
As long as he starts, yeah, I like a lot of Cavs. You could
Max
make an argument to play 3 or 4 Cavs.
Jared Allen.
Sure. The only problem with Jared Allen, like you said, center is it's at a premium here. Like there's a lot of things we can do at center. There's even some of the best values at center. So having a 7K guy eat up that second center spot is potentially problematic. You're looking at Jokic and Embiid both being two of the best plays on the slate, and you can't use them now, you know?
Yeah, I'm not really dying to tie up both center spots between Claxton and Allen. I prefer Claxton at $800 off.
Agreed.
Compared to Allen. So plugging these four in under the assumption Mitchell is out leaves us with an average of 66.50 per spot. Do you want to also assume Paul George is out?
Yeah, and then I don't think we need to force Strus. I think we can look at, obviously you can look right away to Kawhi or Harden, but you could also go a little cheaper and go put in Terrence Mann.
I think Amir Coffey is the one I'd prefer over Terrence Mann.
Oh, famous last words. I mean,
Terrence Mann is 4'6". He is also not good per minute.
Yeah.
I'll take the savings in that scenario, you know?
Yeah, I suppose. If he starts, I mean, Coffey is absolutely in play. I just never feel good about Amir Coffey. I guess you're right. I shouldn't feel any better about Terrence Mann either.
Right. That's the thing. Like, they can both get you 3.
True. So, yeah, we're starting with Porter, LeVert, Coffey, Claxton. You're right away looking at 4 more positions at 7.3 per. That looks pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go. But if we look at power forward, based off of what we've been talking about, I'm looking at Kawhi or Julius there right away.
Agreed. DeRozan, I suppose you can add one of the Lakers. Gets kind of grim in a hurry, though. I do think Julius is a standout.
Yeah.
Don't mind eating the chalk there either.
No, let's pop him in.
If we're not playing Kawhi, I think that means we're likely leaning Harden.
It's not that I'm not playing Kawhi. It's just that
in this lineup,
yeah,
since we currently have Randall, we could still play Kawhi. We have the funds, but I think Harden is the guy that gets the bigger boost without Paul George. Has the ball in his hands more. Kawhi is generally scoring dependent relative to Harden. I mean, compared to Harden. So $100 difference between the two. I like Harden.
All right, we can go Harden. Like I said, I like them both. Same price, going to be similar projection. It's true that he's going to have the ball a little bit more probably, so makes total sense. Oh, okay, so we could go a number of ways to end this. One good way, eat that Derrick Jones chalk, baby.
That leaves us at 68.
Yeah, so that might be no man's land, and it probably is. Yeah, Strus, you go back to Strus there. Yeah, I'm hoping something bigger and better opens up, like Amir Coffey level, to the point where we can go get a third big guy. You know, or you could fade Harden and maybe go get Luka, because like if you do this, what we're doing right now, and don't go Harden and get Luka, still you got to find somebody at 3-4. So maybe going up for the top studs just isn't. Well, until you look, you don't know. But maybe going up for those big boys on a 10-game slate just isn't very viable. And right now, it isn't based off the value.
We can also assume. I was going to say we could assume that Tatum's out or something and get Drew, but he's up to 7K, so we're just short of that with this build.
Well, we don't have to play Derrick Jones Jr. Let's go see if we want to get Drew. Pop him into the utility spot. And then you need to find somebody at 4.8 that you like.
I see. Derek White. Whoops.
So, I mean, I'm not seeing anybody who really stands out in that spot either. So, we'll have to make some adjustments. I don't think we're going to come to, like, the final lineup right now. That's not really the point of what we're doing anyways. The point is to map things out based off of ownership and projections and game environment. And, boy, a lot can change leading up to lineup lock, especially with the things that we know of that are kind of hanging in the balance right now. So my advice would be to, start your build with some iteration of what we got going here, depending on what that news is, and then just adapt and be ready to change based off. What if one of the Lakers sits? What if Luka's randomly ruled out? I mean, everything could change dramatically. So just keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah. I think we should probably call it there.
Yep.
Thanks again for watching. Hopefully this helped you in some way. It is only 10:18 Pacific time in the morning, so Obviously, a lot will change between now and lock. If you did enjoy this, please, again, like and subscribe to the video. And that'll do it. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in.